Hello and welcome to Buy Africa, the show where we focus on investment opportunities around the continent. I'm Tshepo Modiba, and thanks for joining me. Tonight, I'm joined by Brian Dlamini, consultant at Afriwise Consult, for a closer look at Ghana. West Africa, specifically Ghana, it's been a particularly difficult short-term environment. What's your take on where the economy is right now?
I think it's true to say, look, it's been a tough times in the last, say, 3 years.
Right.
But I think the bigger focus now is leading up to November when elections are coming.
Right.
And that's where everybody is kind of, setting their sights.
Right.
Particularly because of the overspending issues that always happen during, election season. And government finances, fall out of bed, if you could put it that way.
And that's particularly concerning for Ghana, given the very big deficit. I know IMF has asked them to reduce that deficit down to, 3% in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Is that likely?
That is likely, based on the trend that one is seeing. It moved from about 12% in 2012 to under 7% now.
Right.
Now, so, they've done quite a lot of hard work, obviously, to bring it down.
Right.
And whether it will get to 3% remains, I suppose, a bigger question mark. But the point to be made is that it is going down.
Right.
And there have been really, key improvements, such as the, government financial management system that's been implemented during, the last, in the short term that passed, which has helped to clean things up. There's an accounting system that tracks who spends what, where, how, under, for what. So that helps. With that in mind, one must also put in the background and say, look, there's also rising debt levels.
Yep.
So we need to now watch that whilst the other economic fundamentals seem to be coming together. Government keeps on borrowing to obviously try and plug the fiscal gap. Every year they try and borrow to pay arrears, to, get things sorted out.
Right.
But there will be a limit at some point where, it will be unsustainable.
Okay. So I'm assuming the bounce that we've seen over the last couple of months in the oil price certainly helps boost government coffers.
It does help, but then we must also remember Ghana is not one of the big boys in oil, as it were. Wood Mackenzie already months ago identified the guys who are going to be hit the most, your Nigeria, your Angola, by the, oil price fluctuations or decline. So for Ghana, it's looking a little bit better. One thing is that, first of all, they're a new kid around the block. So their oil production techniques, as it were, they produce at lower prices than the more established ones, because it's newer technologies.
Right.
Oil is coming on stream by the end of this year from a second block, the 10 block.
Yeah.
That's going to add about, 80,000 barrels per day.
Right.
They're currently sitting between 90,000 and 100,000 with the Jubilee. And then we've obviously got ENI as well, which is a $7 billion project that's going to come on stream by the end of next year, beginning of 2018.
Right.
That also comes with gas, which sorts out power challenges.
Right.
So I think on balance, you can say government finances could potentially improve, and the power crisis also improves in the sense that, 1 gigawatt by 2018 will come on stream. So there will be stability. But in the meantime, it's one of those where authorities have been tightening their belts, trying to clean up their house, borrowing quite significantly in the process, trying to keep things going, and banking, I suppose, on this new oil production that's going to come over the next 3 years. So that will be, I suppose, a little bit of a silver bullet.
So how much of Ghana's outlook is really geared to the level of the oil price? If we see a $40 a barrel oil price, is that a significant headwind in terms of the positive outlook for Ghana?
Look, I think when focusing on oil, it's rightfully so. in the Ghanaian case, but then we must also remember the country ranks at what, 114 or 112 in the ease of doing business.
Yep.
World Bank.
And making progress.
So it's and making quite significant. So it's not a tough place as well for investors to find other opportunities besides oil, things linked with manufacturing. The construction sector is doing very well in Ghana. You know, despite issues here and there, but if you are on the ground, you can see that things are happening.
Right.
And generally, there's an acceptance within the business community that there is, you know, rule of law and things happen. I mean, infrastructure is there. Things just need to expand and keep up with expansion, which is, I suppose, a different story. Like I was saying to someone else, that to the Nigerian case where things are not as concrete or nice in that sense.
Right.
They rank much lower in the ease of doing business. You've got really tough things happening in the oil sector, blowing up of pipelines just as recently as yesterday. The economy is now entered a recession, and most of the sectors are now affected. So it's a different story to tell, even with the oil price decline. And these are countries that are neighbors.
I like this. We're taking a nice positive spin on Ghana. Beyond the newer technology, what makes you bullish about the oil and gas sector in Ghana in particular? So
I suppose for me, the other key highlight about it is there seems to be quite a nice, or rather fairly robust set of relationship with the partners that are involved, you know.
And that helps, government?
Yes.
Okay.
That helps a lot in the times when it becomes tough for people to come around the table and say, look, it is tough. And when you have militant groups, then again I refer to it, bombing a pipeline and destabilizing, no matter how much talking you can say, these are now wild card, you know, type of occurrences. And where do you find these Niger Delta Avengers to talk to them? And it's a very different story. Right. So the point is, it seems like in Ghana, newer technologies, they discovered oil much later. Hopefully they're ramping up. It looks like they're committed to ramping up. Government is also committed to, you know, fiscal restraint in the lead up to elections, but obviously that remains to be seen. But we can say, look, the IMF is the watchdog. Right? So on balance, that's where the positivity comes in, better operating environment. And I think overall, even the currency crisis that you've kind of seen next door is not as bad. The cedi has actually come back quite a bit in terms of stabilizing at around 3.9 to the dollar. Right.
So you wouldn't say that the cedi is a concern for foreign direct investment into Ghana?
It is a concern. Like with other emerging market currencies, certainly the rand is. But the confidence that has been regained is how far it has come back in terms of volatility.
Right.
And in addition, the fact that the central bank has been implementing reforms, you know, in line with the IMF and etc., to really get a handle on the cedi and make the place much more predictable in terms of doing business.
Right at the top of the show, you mentioned elections. Is this something that we're worried about? What's the outlook look like from that perspective?
So the nice thing about Ghana, in a sense, is that, you know, no matter how many people you speak with, you know, on the ground, from your taxi driver to right up to, I don't know, so-called real experts, as it were, is they're not that concerned about a change of government.
Okay.
Because the margin of between the two dominating parties is always slim. So people are used to change of government.
Right.
And they're used to the fact that it's going to be a small margin. Yes, it gets contested in the courts, the usual processes. There might be violence, but nobody, at least in my discussions, has raised the issue of, you know, a complete chaos.
Right.
So that's the nice thing. And remember the other thing, the government that's fixing the crisis is the one that caused the crisis, in a way.
Right.
So they want to, even if they leave government, the administration, they want to leave a good legacy so that the next government, if there is a crisis, they can stand, I suppose, if I was a politician or a person, and say, look, I left the house clean.
Is there any likelihood of material policy changes?
No, that's the beauty of it, is that there have been so many policy or rather changes of administration. In terms of policy change, it would be changing back to the administration that was there before this one.
Right.
And then change. So if, let's say, they were to criticize policy,
right,
it is policy that was them before this administration.
Understood.
So that's the mitigant in terms of wild card, policy changes. But I mean, policy changes come with the territory.
Right. Bullish on Ghana, clearly. Bullish on the oil and gas sector in particular. Any other industries that you think will benefit from this?
Well, I mean, certainly experts on the ground are talking about big developments in the agri space.
Right.
Ghana is known also for cocoa. You've got a manufacturing sector that's, vibrant enough. The construction sector is also a key area, for investors to participate in. Certainly, like I said, when you walk down the streets of Accra, you do see quite a bit of the big names in construction saying, things are, there's growth. And I would typically view that as one of the key indicators. Once construction companies pull out, then there's nothing to build. There's no way. The things are not as robust, perhaps, as one would think in a country. So those are the opportunities that are there in the FDI space.
Perfect. Let's leave it on the good news. Thanks to my guest, Brian Dlamini, consultant at Afriwise Consult. That's all from Buy Africa this week. Remember to follow me on Twitter. That's at Modiba_Tshepo. And send us your thoughts about the show using the hashtag BuyAfrica. For myself and the team, goodbye.